Mr. Speaker, I must inform our citizens that not all of our previously announced measures have yielded the expected level of revenue. In fact, a report by the Caribbean Regional Technical Assistance Center, CARTAC, on our revenue enhancement measures projects that by the end of 2012, the Housing and Social Development Levy would only have achieved 50% of the targeted revenue. My government is aware of the reason for this shortfall. In the original proposal from the consultant, the recommendation was for the increase in the levy to apply to the lowest tier of employee income. However, my government, my cabinet, recognizing the impact that this would have on the masses of the people in our country, did not increase the levy on the lowest tier of income, and therefore the yield on this measure has fallen short. We made this strategic decision at a time when the state of the global economy was pointing to very difficult times for open economies like ours. And therefore we decided not to put an additional burden on the persons earning the minimum wage here in our country. We today, in this parliament, we still stand by this decision, as it is intended, and it was intended to relieve the tax burden on these fixed income earners. And we feel that by leaving their income intact, we were able to bring some relief to them during these very difficult times. We refuse to impose any new taxes on our people. We refuse to increase the tax burden on the people who we consider to be. The fact remains that we must ensure that we generate sufficient revenue in support of our fiscal consolidation program. And even though we do not want to introduce new taxes, we must take steps to secure sufficient revenues. We believe that there are administrative measures that can be implemented to ensure that the government is collecting what it is rightfully due. This is the case with respect to the Housing and Social Development Levy. Therefore, beginning in 2012, reconciliations of the levy collections will be undertaken by the Inland Revenue Department in collaboration with the Social Security Board, which is responsible for the administration and collection of the levy on behalf of the Controller of Inland Revenue. And wherever it is found that businesses have not been complying with the law, they will be required to make restitution. Mr. Speaker, it is estimated that revenue foregone through concession for 2011 will amount to some EC $110 million. But we believe that before we can introduce new taxes, we should try to rationalize the current exemptions with a view towards improving our revenue intake. To this end, in 2012, we intend to undertake a complete review of the exemptions which still exist on the customs service charge to ensure that they are all in line with legislation and with government policy. With respect to the VAT, we will undertake to improve compliance on the VAT collections. In particular, we will review the practices and the procedures for administering the input credit system for VAT in the tourism sector, as we have received reports from the consultant who did an analysis on the VAT performance that there could be serious non-compliance in this regard. We will also begin to publish the names of those taxpayers who are non-compliant as provided in the law, because these are persons who are collecting the VAT from consumers, holding it and not reporting it and delivering it to the government. That will have to come to an end, Mr. Speaker. And so we will begin to publish the names of those taxpayers who are non-compliant as provided in the law. In addition, when the current exemption on the supply of construction services on commercial construction expires, we will treat the construction sector similarly to the way in which the banking sector is being treated. That is, all services provided for a fee will be subject to a VAT. However, amounts received by contractors to be disbursed as wages or to purchase materials will be exempted from the VAT. We will also treat the insurance sector in a similar way in the new year 2012. None shall escape. That is, services provided for a fee will be subject to VAT, while amounts specifically collected as premiums will be exempted from VAT. We will also fine-tune income tax filings for insurance companies to make them much more transparent. Mr. Speaker, we intend to pass a new Corporation Tax Act in 2012. However, there are certain loopholes in the current Income Tax Act that we intend to close from January the 1st, 2012. The threshold on personal income will only be deductible from one cost center in a corporation or other business entity. In other words, a person who receives $180,000 in annual income will not be able to claim three amounts of $60,000 from three different branches or subsidiaries or other related entity of the same corporation, and hence reduce taxable income by tax avoidance. We shall go after those who are avoiding to pay. We also intend to improve the administration of the excise tax system and increase our collection efforts in this area. We will re-examine the subsidy on liquid petroleum gas, LPG, which costs the government over $4 million annually. For the year 2011, the Sugar Industry Diversification Foundation, the SIDF, it has financed the subsidy so that no further financial burden would be brought to bear on our people. Our households have been relieved of any increase to the tune of $4 million. However, this subsidy cannot go on forever, and we shall begin to phase this out from 2012. We will monitor the situation carefully. We shall monitor it carefully. We shall monitor it carefully, and we will only move in this direction if nothing better can be done. We do not want unnecessarily to burden our householders. We will also continue to examine the fee structures for the services which government provides and ensure that these fees adequately cover the cost which incur to provide these services. Mr. Speaker, there are some actions that we are already taking in 2011 to ensure that we remain on course to achieve the fiscal targets that we have set. In particular, we have discontinued all expenditure commitments for the rest of 2011. We will only make payments for the salaries and other statutory expenditure. I am therefore using this opportunity to appeal to all ministries and departments to cooperate with the Ministry of Finance in implementing this particular measure. We are also appealing to commercial houses to refrain from taking orders from anyone in government by telephone or word of mouth. You won't be paid. You just won't be paid, as the only commitments that will be honored are those that they receive on an official government purchase order printed from out ITMS system. Otherwise, they run the risk of not being paid at all. This does not apply to this current season, but to government's operations in general. Mr. Speaker, I'm very confident that this mix of administrative adjustments and procedures will achieve the revenue levels that we need to meet our needs and help to place our fiscal on a sustainable path, as well as put our debt on a firm downward trajectory.